Have you noticed it too? The quiet withdrawal of men, the dates that never happen, the messages that never get sent, the way men are stepping back, not because they can't find love, but because they've stopped wanting to lose themselves in the process. There's an eerie silence settling in our culture, and if you listen closely, it's not bitterness, it's peace. It's men realizing they no longer need to prove their worth to people who never intended to see it. That's unsettling, isn't it? Because for so long, men were told their value came from pursuit, from chasing, fixing, protecting, providing. But something has shifted, and that shift is rewriting the rules of modern relationships. Before we go deeper, if you're a man watching this and you've ever felt drained, unseen, or emotionally exhausted from giving too much, subscribe to this channel, hit that like button, and stay until the end. You're about to understand something that society has worked hard to keep you blind to. See, men aren't opting out of dating because they've given up on women. They're opting out because they've finally started choosing themselves. For decades, dating was framed as a transaction. Give her security, give her consistency, give her effort. But few ever told men to expect the same in return. What happens when you pour from an empty cup long enough? You stop pouring. You go still. You stop trying to impress people who only see what they can take. And that's what's happening right now. The world calls it loneliness, but it's not loneliness when a man sits in silence and feels peace for the first time in years. It's not isolation when he spends a weekend alone and realizes he's not walking on eggshells anymore. It's healings. This is the unseen revolution, men quietly rebuilding their self-worth in the shadows. They're learning to find fulfillment not in external validation, but in discipline, freedom, purpose, and peace of mind. The same men who were once mocked for not trying hard enough are now the ones walking with quiet confidence. And while the world may not understand it yet, this new kind of man doesn't crave attention anymore. He craves peace, and he's finally unapologetic about it. Let me tell you what most people will never admit. Modern dating has become emotionally expensive for men. Every date feels like an interview, every message feels like a test, and every connection carries the weight of prove yourself or lose your chance. It's no wonder men are walking away, not from love, but from the performance that love has turned into. You've been conditioned to believe that if you're not endlessly chasing, fixing, or earning affection, you're failing as a man. But what if that narrative was never meant to serve you? Think about it. You were taught to open doors, pay bills, and protect, yet the emotional reciprocity you were promised rarely comes back with the same sincerity. Too many men find themselves in dynamics where their effort is invisible until it's gone, and when they finally step back, they're labeled emotionally unavailable. But what if that's not unavailability? What if it's self-preservation? Men are exhausted, not from love itself, but from unequal emotional labor. You give attention, consistency, and emotional safety to women who often keep their guard up, testing your intentions instead of seeing your humanity. Over time, that burns you out. It makes you second-guess your worth, your effort, even your masculinity. But here's the quiet truth. Many men have realized they don't need to keep proving they're good enough. They're reclaiming their time, energy, and peace. When a man starts valuing solitude over chaos, society calls him cold. When he stops tolerating emotional games, he's called toxic. But in reality, he's evolving. He's setting boundaries. He's no longer a participant in a system that rewards the loudest, most dramatic interactions while punishing authenticity. The happiness men are discovering in not dating doesn't come from bitterness. It comes from liberation. For the first time, men are learning to rest without guilt. They're traveling alone, hitting the gym not to impress, but to decompress. They're rediscovering hobbies, reconnecting with purpose, rebuilding friendships that don't drain them. It's not that they've given up on women, it's that they've stopped trying to earn what should be mutual. This is what the world misunderstands. When a man chooses peace over validation, he's not retreating, he's recharging. And that recharge is what's making men today not lonelier, but freer than they've ever been. There's a deep sadness in realizing that love today often feels like negotiation instead of connection. Many men have felt it, the moment when something real turns into something transactional. You can feel her scanning you, measuring your potential, evaluating your energy like a checklist. And you wonder, when did romance become a resume? When did a man's worth become tied to what he can offer instead of who he truly is? That quiet ache inside so many men today isn't apathy. It's fatigue from being treated like a resource instead of a person. Something profound happens when a man finally stops chasing what doesn't respect him. The silence he once feared becomes his teacher. The loneliness he once avoided turns into clarity. He begins to see how much of his life was spent trying to earn love instead of sharing it. And that realization hits deep, because when you stop performing for approval, you start asking, why was I ever doing that in the first place? Men are waking up to a truth society rarely acknowledges. Unconditional acceptance isn't given to them easily. From childhood, they're taught to suppress feelings, to be providers, to measure success by external validation. And when those same men step into relationships, they often carry an invisible script, one that says, if I do everything right, I'll finally be seen. But that script is breaking, because doing everything right has still led to betrayal, rejection, or indifference for too many men. Now they're rewriting it, quietly, alone, not in anger, but in understanding. They're realizing that their worth isn't conditional on who stays or who leaves. A man who no longer seeks validation from attention becomes centered in his own gravity. He's no longer desperate to prove he's valuable. He knows he is, and that confidence doesn't come from arrogance. It comes from peace. When a man detaches from the chaos of modern dating, something remarkable happens. His mind sharpens, his goals realign, his standards rise. He starts seeing how much energy he wasted chasing temporary highs that always ended in emotional lows. He learns that attraction built on games fades, but attraction built on authenticity never dies. And once he's tasted that freedom, he can never go back to the noise. Women may call it indifference, society may call it withdrawal, but in truth, it's awakening. Men are learning emotional discipline. They're no longer confusing attention for affection or validation for intimacy. They're understanding that true connection isn't about constant reassurance. It's about mutual respect, effort, and peace. This is why so many men today seem happier alone, because they're not truly alone. They're finally with themselves, with their purpose, with their power. And when a man stands in that kind of stillness, unshaken by pressure or judgment, he's no longer escaping love. He's elevating it. He's learning that love without peace isn't love at all. It's dependency disguised as devotion. And here's where the turning point happens. Men are starting to recognize that peace is priceless. They're seeing that no amount of validation or affection can replace the calm of waking up without anxiety about someone's mixed signals. You don't miss being ignored after doing everything right. You don't miss being questioned for your intentions while your heart was steady. You don't miss chasing approval that never comes. You start missing yourself. The version of you that laughed easily, that worked on his goals, that didn't carry emotional debt from relationships that drained him. This awakening is quiet, but it's powerful. It's happening in coffee shops where men sit alone with calm eyes instead of tense hearts. It's in gyms, in hikes, in long drives where they're not replaying arguments, but imagining futures they can finally breathe in. This is not avoidance, it's evolution. Men are realizing that the constant striving for acceptance in dating has been sabotaging their mental health, and they're choosing differently. For years, society told men they needed a woman to be complete, that being single was a failure, that solitude was punishment. But now, that conditioning is cracking. Men are learning that solitude can be sanctuary, that happiness doesn't come from external approval, it comes from internal alignment. They're not waiting to be chosen anymore. They're choosing peace, purpose, and authenticity. And yes, this shift is unsettling to many people, because a man who no longer needs to chase can't be manipulated through desire or guilt. He's grounded, he's deliberate, he's dangerous to systems that thrive on male exhaustion. So when you see men walking alone, smiling quietly, not competing for attention, it's not sadness, it's sovereignty. It's a man finally realizing he was never supposed to lose himself to be loved. Here's the paradox no one wants to talk about. When men stop chasing, they start being chased, not because they suddenly become unavailable, but because they radiate something far rarer: stability, the kind of quiet strength that doesn't need validation, that doesn't crumble under pressure, that doesn't beg to be seen. And that energy, it pulls people in. When a man is centered in his peace, he stops attracting chaos. He starts attracting respect. You see, for years, men were told that love is about pursuit, that real masculinity means constantly proving, constantly giving, constantly chasing. But when you grow up always chasing, you start believing that what you're chasing is above you. And that's where most men lose themselves. They forget that partnership isn't about pursuit. It's about alignment. It's not about finding someone to fill the void. It's about being whole enough that love becomes a choice, not a need. This is the quiet evolution of the modern man. He's not avoiding women. He's avoiding emotional instability. He's not anti-love. He's anti-chaos. He's tired of relationships that feel like emotional roller coasters disguised as passion. He's tired of explaining his worth. He wants peace, not drama. Depth, not performance. When a man steps into this mindset, his whole world changes. He doesn't text impulsively just to feel needed. He doesn't beg for closure that will never come. He doesn't confuse being desired with being valued. Instead, he invests in what's real: his craft, his fitness, his peace of mind, his friendships, his faith. He starts realizing that the love he was searching for externally was always meant to begin internally. And that's when something fascinating happens. The same world that once mocked him for not trying begins to respect him. The same people who called him emotionally unavailable now call him mysterious and grounded. But he's not playing a role. He's simply no longer available for situations that compromise his peace. You see, the happiest men aren't the ones who've given up on love. They're the ones who've stopped begging for it. They've learned that when peace becomes your priority, everything else begins to align naturally. Love, respect, opportunity, they start flowing toward the man who no longer chases because he's already found what he was looking for, himself. And in that stillness, he becomes powerful beyond measure, because no one can control a man who's mastered the art of contentment. When a man chooses peace, he doesn't lose his edge. He refines it. He no longer burns energy trying to impress or convince. His focus shifts inward, and that shift is where transformation begins. He becomes quieter, more deliberate, more intentional. He starts noticing how much noise he used to tolerate. Constant texting, emotional drama, endless proving. He doesn't hate women. He simply values his sanity more than the chaos that comes with chasing validation. That's not detachment. It's maturity. Every man reaches a breaking point where exhaustion becomes enlightenment. It's the night he stares at his phone and doesn't send that message. The moment he realizes he doesn't need closure from someone who already showed him who they are. It's the peace that follows walking away without bitterness. That's when he stops living reactively and starts living consciously. You see, this isn't a men versus women movement. It's not rebellion, it's awakening. Men are finally learning emotional boundaries, something they were never taught. Society told them to be strong, but never how to be still. It told them to provide, but never to protect their energy. It praised sacrifice, but ignored self-respect. And so, generation after generation, men bled silently, until now. Now they're redefining what strength means. It's not shouting louder or loving harder. It's knowing when to walk away. It's saying, I can care about you deeply, but not at the expense of my peace. It's realizing that masculinity isn't about control, it's about composure. When a man reaches that point, his whole presence changes. His silence becomes power, his restraint becomes authority. And the irony? That's when genuine attraction begins. Because real women, emotionally grounded women, aren't drawn to men who chase blindly. They're drawn to men who stand still, rooted in purpose. The kind of man who doesn't need to win attention to feel alive. This is why many men today aren't dating, not because they've given up, but because they've grown up. They're no longer seeking temporary comfort at the cost of long-term peace. They're no longer running toward affection that feels conditional. They're finally okay with being misunderstood because they'd rather be at peace alone than in conflict with someone else. This isn't the end of love, It's the rebirth of self-respect. And the men embracing it aren't lost. They're finally home. Here's the truth that shakes everything we've been taught. Men aren't walking away from women. They're walking toward wholeness, toward peace, purpose, and presence. And that's terrifying to a world that profits from male distraction. For too long, men have been told that their value depends on what they can give, provide, or protect. But now they're realizing their true power isn't in what they offer. It's in what they withhold until it's deserved. Their time, their energy, their love. It's no longer free. It's sacred. This new era of men isn't about bitterness. It's about balance. These men aren't angry. They're aware. They're waking up to the truth that chasing love often meant abandoning themselves. That constant giving without reciprocation wasn't noble. It was self-erasure. Now they're reclaiming what was always theirs, self-worth. And in that reclamation, they're becoming unstoppable. You see, peace changes a man's entire energy. When he's not caught in emotional warfare, his creativity returns, his focus sharpens, his goals become crystal clear. He starts building again, his body, his business, his inner world. He stops seeking permission to rest, to dream, to be free. And that freedom, it's magnetic, because a man who's not afraid to be alone cannot be controlled. Some will misunderstand this shift. They'll call it detachment, arrogance, or avoidance. But that's only because they've never seen a man truly healed. A man who's no longer chasing validation doesn't withdraw from love. He elevates it. He knows that real love doesn't drain. It sustains. It doesn't demand his sacrifice. It deserves his presence. And when that man finally chooses to love again, it will be from a place of fullness, not fear. So to every man who's stopped dating, who's chosen silence over noise, solitude over stress, understand this. You're not broken. You're rebuilding. You're not behind. You're becoming. And one day, someone will meet you and feel the peace you fought to protect. That's when you'll realize you were never avoiding love. You were preparing to give it from strength, not survival.